I had little to no issues playing this game myself on my beefy PC. The specs should be down in the description of this video. I could go on and show you all kinds of bugs and glitches that happen to others, but I will not do that. Instead, I'll tell you my own experience with the product. I hope the devs are acknowledging the problems and fix their game for everyone that's on minimum specs or higher. And I hope they don't bash on gamers like they did in the past, because it's their right to complain if the game is broken. The Last of Us on PC. I waited for so long. This is one of the games that everyone heard of, but many couldn't play until now. Well, many still can't play it. The legend says they're still compiling shaders. It's unacceptable to have a game compiling shaders for 30 minutes to 2 hours, even more for some unlucky people. I think it lasted 1 hour and 20 minutes for me. And the second unacceptable thing is the loading times between gameplay sessions. I mean, loading is very fast if you die and do a quick reload, but if you boot and load a fresh game, it takes around 4 or so minutes. With this crap out of the way, let's get into the actual review finally. It was shocking for me to see this game has any option you can think of for you to play with. Most console ports have this half-assed, especially the controls, UI and graphic options. In controls you see stuff like shoulder swap, quick turn sensitivity, aim assist and all the good stuff. In display you see the usual stuff. VSync, frame rate cap, resolution scaling, etc. Nothing important missing. One note on this: if you feel your game is too grainy, turn under the effects film grain intensity to 0. You'll thank me later. And finally, under graphics, you can turn on or off and scale pretty much anything you can think of. I especially like the fact that you can turn off lens flare and motion blur, and the cherry on the top is the fact that you can have depth of field in cinematics only. Thank God for that. That's so cool. A big plus for me was the VRAM usage display with the current settings. That's a neat feature. More developers should do that, as you can fine-tune your settings from the menu. Too bad that some of the settings in here are placebo, meaning they don't have any effect inside the game. In HUD, you can change a few reticles, have all kinds of indicators that will aid you in combat, elements of the HUD that you can turn on or off, hints, and the best thing, FPS counter along with CPU usage, GPU temperature, clock speed and VRAM usage. I wish the default would be smaller and more transparent. During the night, those stats are pretty distracting. And one last thing, textures on medium look like the jump from medium to high is huge. When I started playing this, I kept thinking about Red Dead Redemption 2. Cinematics and gameplay are on the same level. The world, however, is not. And that's not really a negative for me. One is open world and the other one is linear. But because the game makes you change the scenery so often and has many interiors within the world, you have the feeling that you have more liberty than you actually have. I'll keep the next section brief because I don't want to spoil much of the story. You start in your hometown with your daughter and brother when all of a sudden strange things start happening, neighbors turn aggressive and you need to bail. Then you wake up in the quarantine zone, 20 years later. Places and people start unveiling to you, each with their own motivations and story. I like a lot the cinematic nature of this game. It's such a great way to reveal the story. Better than a series for sure. I know this is annoying for people that want to go pew 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 all the time, and they don't care much about these kinds of experiences, but then this is not the game for you. If cinematics are captivating, I don't mind the game taking control every 5 minutes from me. if I'm not invested in a story, yeah, it gets on my nerves pretty quickly. Characters are charismatic and the dialogue is not dumb. Yeah, I know, my standards are that low. And both of these add to the story. The cinematics are sublime. Think I made it pretty clear by now. Great lighting, very good voice acting and animations. Feels good to see a game with great lip sync and facial expressions. And the use of depth of field in these cinematics is great, and overall the camera work in them is top notch. What I didn't like as much is the fact that when you need to climb somewhere, you always do it in a few specific ways. The same with traversing water bodies. I get it, Ellie can't swim, but come on, the raft was overused. I would have loved a couple more options to get from A to B. Combat feels good. I mean, I only wish I'd be a better shot and not chew through ammo that quick. Other than that, nice weapons introduced to you one by one, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. There is a crafting system in the game, from medkits to nail bombs, all sorts of consumables. You build these with the junk you find within the world. Also, this encourages exploration, so you don't leave an area before you looted everything. One negative with this is when you search for loot, I feel you miss out on potential cool vistas or skyboxes or even a nice textured hole in the ceiling. I guess luckily the game tells you to press a certain button to look at points of interest from time to time. You can also upgrade skills with some pills you find scattered in unexpected places. I started with health because I suck at games, but weapon sway reduction or listen mode distance increase are legit. Stealth is a big thing in this game. You will not have much ammo to go through every enemy you see, at least I don't. So you need to stealth kill the zombies because you don't want to attract more than 2 at a time. Not in the beginning anyway. Given the fact that you don't have machine guns, the rate of fire and your aim is the limiter when it comes to killing enemies fast. This is how it's supposed to be done, in this case at least, without using a single bullet. After a while I could go a bit YOLO with the flamethrower, but I still recommend you go slow, methodically. I didn't know the flamethrower range at that point as I just got it. All melee weapons have durability, but if they break, don't worry, you can use fists. From time to time you find crafting tables, where you can customize your weapons or add an extra holster for quick draw. Nothing fancy, the usual stuff: reload speed, penetrating power, scope, mag capacity, reduced recoil, etc. The upgrades are dependent on the weapon, so you can slap a scope on a shotgun, for example. This is a horror game, but somehow I could play it. Usually I had spare pants nearby when I tried to play horror games. Compared with Dead Space or Alien Isolation, this is light. The moment when I needed a new pair of pants was this. It has its scary moments for sure. The game has very few jump scares because two factors. The zombies all make specific noises when they are idle doing their usual business. And not being alone makes it even better. Your companion even gives you heads up sometimes if you didn't see an enemy sneaking up on you.
Do you see them?
The Last of Us Part 1 has very good art direction. From cinematics, don't know if I mentioned this already, to environment and characters. Got FPS capped at 62 to 60 Hz monitor, and the game was staying at that frame rate most of the time, with occasional dips when recording and some specific scenes like this one.
Hear that sound, Bill?
Yeah, well, that means you back can hear it too. Just get the fucking truck.
The biggest impact on visuals, in my opinion, is vegetation and lighting. Those two, with very good texture blending, add wear and tear to the world. Make the 20 years into Apocalypse believable. Everything looks as you would imagine it would. I didn't think even once, hey, this surface or that object are too clean. It's a believable wear on textures. Also, the specular is amazing. I took the time to admire clothes or different surfaces when it rains or when you need to swim. The interiors are varied. Even if you notice some repetition, the layout and colors are different. Ultra settings, including draw distance, LODs don't pop up. At least I don't think I ever noticed. Overall, texel density is balanced, but you see here and there one that's a bit lower than the next one. I have a slight issue with some of the skybox textures they used. In most of the game the sky looks alright, if not great, but in some instances the skybox it's noisy and you can clearly see the static clouds and the fact that it's a simple texture mapped on a box or a sphere. That broke the immersion for me a little bit. In 2023, I'm used with the dynamic skyboxes, volumetric clouds and all the good stuff. Sound is also very good. This makes the world more believable. I often play games that neglect this aspect and it shows. Even if the player can't pinpoint it, he can feel something's off.
Scoot you on back. Come on.
The world feels alive, especially outdoors. Insects, small creatures, zombies, and all other kinds of environmental sounds that make sense in that specific context.
Whoa, what's that?
Indoors sound great also. All kinds of cracks, creaks, you can hear the wind blowing outside, clickers, infected, even your own footsteps, all add to the tension and immersion.
Shit.
What is this place? It's an old museum.
In almost every setting I found myself in, with a few exceptions, sound was spot on. Guns sound meaty, impact of the bullet sounds gory, voices are authentic, and zombie sounds are detailed and scary. A bit repetitive though, but from gameplay point of view, that's good because you know what you will need before the next room, so you don't get scared. Not to take anything away from all the people that hate on this, and for good reason, but for me, it was a good experience overall, and I just can't shit on it because it's a popular opinion to have. If it wasn't for the two big problems I mentioned at the start of the video, the shader compilation and the long loading times, both things that could make a Happy Meal sad, this would be a 4.7 out of 5 from me. Just because I know how hard it is to make such a coherent experience. And I'm happy they finally released it on PC. It sucks not many could experience The Last of Us as I did. So we have those two blunders plus the premium price. For a game that's released for the fourth time, I believe, I'll give it 4 out of 5. Now, the final advice for potential buyers. If you have a decent PC, I'd say 10 GB VRAM minimum and 32 GB of RAM for 1080p or 4040p should be enough. I know this sounds stupid, but it is what it is. But given the fact that, as I've said, on medium textures look like crap, it's just not worth it in my opinion, if you have a lower spec. Glad you stayed until the end of this video. It means my voice didn't put you to sleep already. If you have any feedback for me, or if you'd like me to cover some specific game, let me know in the comments below. See you!